group, their future will be on the silver screen. Hi, I'm Ann Romer.
I'm Peter Feniak, and this is That's Life.
Mankind has submerged itself in the most devastating type of war possible, a trade war. By 1982, there will be world shortages of just about all resources.
This record, made in 1974 by astrologer Robin Armstrong, proved amazingly accurate in foretelling the upheavals that came in the rest of the decade. Today, on part 2 of our visit with him, Robin Armstrong looks at the world in the 80s. We spoke with him this summer, before the American presidential candidates had been confirmed.
I looked at the world over the past century and ahead for 25 to 50 years. Is there something in this period of time that's more unique than things that would happen within 100 years, within 200 years? In fact, there is. There's a crisis and an intensity of planetary development that happens once in only 500 years, and it builds up to 1982 to 1984.
You predicted natural disasters and...
That's correct. When earthquakes are caused by planetary alignments, and in 1982 to 1984, all the planets are within 60 degrees on one side of the sun. This alignment happens only once every 500 years at a minimum, and it would precipitate great earthquakes, great solar flares, great environmental disruption.
1984 is a word that was, or is a year that was resonant in the counterculture, George Orwell's grim vision of the future. Does it appear it's going to happen?
Well, Big Brother is a concept that frightens most people, and definitely it threatens the idea of free enterprise. We're not going to be able to use whatever we want in the future. Any way you take it, whether there's a Big Brother, a world organization, or whether we have some disruption over a fight for who's going to control things. But the point I'm making is that there is a crisis coming within the next 3 or 4 years that's unequal to 500 years.
Okay, let's go from the global view to our own country, to Canada. You've studied the charts of Pierre Trudeau, Joe Clark, Ed Broadbent. What do you see for the future?
Well, I see that Canada it's just coming out of a period of great disruption of its world identity. And right now, Canada is overwhelmed with difficulties around unemployment, around health care, and this is a great problem that will be so for yet another year, at any case, if not longer. There will be a much greater commitment to the world community starting in about a year after the American election. And Canada will be playing a much stronger role, but it will be a much costlier role in that its resources will be used. The biggest danger around Canada's chart is that in terms of communications, TV, radio, travel, fuel, any kind of postal or communication work, Canada is going to be ripped off incredibly and have great expenses and great losses over the next 3 or 4 years.
Okay, let's look at the leaders. Trudeau, Clark, Broadbent.
I feel Trudeau has a destiny with this time of 1982 to 84 and a worldview, and most of his political awareness is very tuned in to the time of the century. I feel he's one person, personally, I feel he wouldn't lead Canada into war. A Libra would generally not lead someone into war. The interesting thing is Jimmy Carter is also a Libran, and Margaret Thatcher is also a Libran. The difficulty with Joe Clark is that he's over-ambitious and over-powerful, and it was premature. I feel his ambition was his own detriment at this age in his life. His real peak time will be in 21 years or so.
Okay, let's go down to the United States.
Much of this world crisis that's coming up is hinging on the American election. The world situation, the government, the inflation, whether there'll be a war or not, what manners the confrontations will come in the next 4 years. I'm not 100% certain at this point who would win. I tend to think that it'll be Carter against Reagan. I'm sure that Reagan would lead the United States into a war. And he has a very control-oriented aspects in his chart that would fight under pressure. And Carter would do just a